Hello, my name is Bartels, and I'm here today to present to you a marketing campaign I've put together for the 2021 Tour de Tonka charity bike ride event. The Tour de Tonka is a yearly charity event put on by Minnetonka Community Education, with the next one taking place on August 7th of 2021. Its main attraction is multiple bike routes, some as long as 71 miles, that participants can ride and enjoy. The goal of the event is to raise funds and awareness for the Minnetonka ICA food shelf to aid those in need around the state. This is done through a portion of each rider's registration fee being donated, as well as any other monetary or non-perishable donations made. Even those who aren't riding are able to donate. According to the organization's official site, the event brings in over 3,500 riders annually from over 42 states, and since 2006, Tour de Tonka has raised over $75,000 for the ICA. Now, the goal of this campaign is to increase overall exposure of the event in the month leading up to it, primarily to those in Hennepin and surrounding counties, as well as the entire state. Although registration does open on April 1st, this campaign will focus on advertising closer to the actual event date. The campaign will strive to ultimately increase rider turnout at the event by at least 50% or possibly even more. This will therefore increase the amount of donations made and money raised for the Minnetonka ICA. From this, a secondary goal of the campaign is to increase knowledge of the event. Getting word of the event out to as many people as possible will increase the amount of people riding, but more importantly, the more people who know about it, the more potential donors to the ICA, whether they ride or not. Ultimately, the end goal of this campaign is to increase the amount of funds raised for the ICA, however that may be. And the primary theme of this campaign is the pandemic, with the slogan, "Post-Pandemic Pedal." This theme capitalizes on the global pandemic that quite literally everyone has been experiencing. A majority of people are experiencing a strong sense of lethargy and apathy due to these circumstances. This campaign entices the consumer with the thought of a refreshing, social, active charity event. Beyond marketing, the Tour de Tonka is exactly what people need right now. A ray of hope that people haven't had in months. This campaign plays with the idea that by the time the ride rolls around in August, the pandemic will be over. Now, while this is uncertain, given recent medical breakthroughs, it is the likely outcome. And regardless, the ride is completely outdoors and has already been completed during the pandemic with little change and great success. Being that this campaign promises not only safe, but it's likely. Registering for a unique event with the mindset that the pandemic will be over is not only pleasing to the consumer, but it's enticing as well. Moving on, the Tour de Tonka is truly for anyone and everyone. Tour de Tonka director Tim Litfin says, "All ages and all abilities, from families and recreational bicyclists to cycling teams and serious athletes, can successfully ride and enjoy the beautiful scenery." So the campaign as a whole will not be limited to any specific group of people. It will, however, utilize different forms of marketing designed to target some specific demo, geo, and psychographics. The primary target audience is anyone and everyone in the local Hennepin and surrounding counties, around roughly a 30-mile radius of Minnetonka. Because of the local nature of this event, this is a geographic that is most likely to participate. Now, the second target is cyclists. And while yes, the event is designed for anyone to participate, cyclists are one of the demographics who are most likely to attend and be excited about the cycling event. Now, the tertiary target is parents and children, partially because families are statistically more likely to participate in a charity event, and because having a spouse or child means more potential participants compared to someone alone. Now, these three audiences are what most of the marketing is catered towards, but again, it is designed to be exposed to any people, maximizing publicity. Now, while Post-Pandemic Pedal is the campaign's main slogan, it is also the focus of this advertisement shared through Instagram. Instagram is a wildly popular platform with over 130 million users in the US. Nearly everyone and their mom uses it, which is why it was selected as one of the campaign's primary forms of advertising. Instagram is also a very simple and inexpensive advertising platform, with its image posts being very easy to digest. This post specifically emphasizes the Post-Pandemic Pedal slogan, relating to users with the image of no lethargy, and then proceeding to display the potential of registering and participating in the Tour de Tonka. This ad will be displayed to all demographics within a 30-mile radius around the city of Minnetonka, focusing on the primary target of local people. Clicking on the post will bring users to the event's information and registration website. This post will be advertised on Instagram for 30 days from July 5th to August 4th, just before the event. $100 will be spent daily for a total of $3,000 and reaching an estimated 420,000 to 1.1 million people. According to data from a study on consumer interaction, Instagram has an average click-through rate of 0.52%. Now, because of the local and physical nature of this event, and given the current socioeconomic climate, it's more realistic to have this value to 0.26% for this case. Using this figure, this advertisement should result in around 1,092 to 2,860 new registrations. This could result in as much as an 80% increase in riders over previous years, just from this ad alone. Now, on top of this, in the other 99.74% of people who don't register for the race per se, there will still be plenty of people who still donate to the ICA, contributing to the end goal of this campaign. Now, beyond advertisements, the campaign features a slew of promotions, first being a raffle. Every rider's registration grants them one entry into a raffle for 3 separate $500 gift cards to Eric's Bike Shop. The idea with this is that the winners will be able to use this money on a brand new bike. And because each entry costs $35 to $79 depending on rider age and race length, this prize will seem like a just reward. This chance at winning will work to convince those on the fence about participating to register. Now, in order to promote this promotion, a second online advertisement is implemented through Instagram, displaying the Eric's Bikes gift card promotion. It is a single image post of an Eric's Bikes interior with a text window reading, "Win a $500 Eric's gift card." There is also a banner across the bottom reading, "Register for the 2021 Tour de Tonka." The caption of this post explains how each registration is an entry to win one of the 3 $500 Eric's gift cards, and making the claim, "Ride the post-pandemic pedal on a new set of wheels." Now, clicking on this post once again brings the user to the registration website. While the goal of the first advertisement was to spread the word about the event, the goal of this one is to inform users about the raffle in order to further persuade them to register. This post will be advertised for only 15 days prior to the event, from July 20th to August 4th, thus sparking interest in the prize closer to the actual event date. This post will once again be displayed only to those in a 30-mile radius of Minnetonka, and at a budget of $100 a day, the total cost will be $1,500, with an estimated reach of 210,000 to 560,000 people. Using the same figure of a 0.26% click-through rate, this post should result in roughly 546 to 1,456 new registrations. This advertisement is very similar to the last one. It's simply advertising the event in a different, possibly more enticing way. Now, changing gears from social media advertisements, this campaign will also seek to obtain a spot on a local news broadcast. KARE 11 News was and is one of the largest news sources in Minnesota. KARE has won the coveted demographic of viewers 25 to 54 years old in almost every Nielsen's rating sweeps period since the 1980s. They also hold top viewership from adults ages 18 to 34. So taking advantage of a news station's viewership will allow knowledge of the Tour de Tonka to reach not only both of those critical demographics, but the entire state. Now, being a state news station, KARE 11 is very open to hosting local stories and will no doubt give Tour de Tonka a spot. So roughly 2 weeks before the event, on July 23rd, KARE 11 will broadcast a news story on the Tour de Tonka during the 6 p.m. programming. This time frame is important because it is soon enough to give people time to think and plan, but late enough that people will actually care and take action. This broadcast will consist of a brief summary of the event, making sure to touch on the ride itself, the cause the funds go to, the success of the event in the past, the raffle, and most importantly, the registration buy one get one that begins the next day. There will then be spokespeople from the event, and these will consist of organizers from the event, past riders, and most importantly, parents and children, thus covering most bases and appealing to all demographics, but specifically families. These excerpts will focus more on the subjective aspects of the event, such as the beautiful scenery, the enjoyment of the riders, the appreciation of the organization and execution of the event, and how much they encourage others to participate. Now, 2 studies by the Pew Research Center concluded that 47% of Americans watch the news on TV, and 66% of Americans view their news between 5 p.m. and 9 p.m. Although the channel broadcasts even beyond Minnesota, for realistic numbers, these stats will be applied to just the state. Applying 66% of 47% of Minnesota's 5.64 million population results in an estimated reach of 1.75 million people. So while there aren't exact figures on how many people this broadcast will reach, it can be reasonably presumed that it will reach a large audience in the state. The result of this broadcast will be a large amount of informed and willing viewers, increasing not only the amount of participants, but also the amount of donations from non-riders. On top of this, given that this is a community news story consisting of volunteer speakers, the total cost for this will be negligible, if not completely null. Now, as I just briefly mentioned, in order to further increase registration, during the weekend of July 24th to July 25th, registration would buy one, get one 50% off. While I'm not the one who runs the website, the offer could be displayed in a manner similar to this illustration. This will be the weekend right after the news broadcast, so not only will knowledge of the event be at an all-time high, but interest will be peaked as well. This created atmosphere, on top of the limited availability, will create a large desire to purchase. 50% off is the perfect amount because it will no doubt increase purchases, planned or impulsive, while at the same time ensuring that there isn't a significant loss of revenue. The time frame is relatively small as well, thus increasing the urgency of purchase, bringing in many customers who would not have otherwise purchased. And finally, this deal, unlike a regular individual ticket sale, requires the purchase of multiple tickets to take advantage of, directly increasing the amount of riders, further contributing to the ultimate goal of this campaign. Now, the campaign's final form of advertising is a little different. Although our society is becoming ever more virtual, there still exists a market in the physical world. Cyclists, while being one of the target audiences of the Tour de Tonka, are also the ones who spend most of their time outside. The best way to advertise to a demographic is to relate to their expertise. To do this, event organizers and volunteers will collect 25 used, old, non-functional bikes, which can be acquired from various sources like eBay, bike shops, or community members. These bikes don't even have to function, so while the bikes collected will vary drastically in value, it's safe to estimate that 25 not-so-functional bikes will average out to around $25 a piece, for an average of around $625. Along with this, cheap bike locks can be purchased from Amazon for around $8 each. They will then spray paint them completely blue and put the Tour de Tonka logo over both sides of the wheel. It's difficult to get an accurate representation virtually, but they will look something similar to the figure pictured. Then, on July 1st, these bikes will be locked to bike racks in popular cycling locations around the state, such as Rochester, Great River Road, and Minnehaha Creek. These bikes will be spread out in places all across Minnesota with the goal of attracting those who may be geographically farther away, but are more likely to participate in a cycling event. These bikes will then be retrieved on August 9th to hopefully be reused the following year. Ultimately, this unique form of advertising, while requiring a relatively low cost, is sure to grab the attention of our arguably most important audience and increase event turnout from cyclists. Now, after corresponding with Tour de Tonka organizer Tim Litfin, he explained how a large portion of event funds are made from Tour de Tonka apparel sold both at the event and year-round. Clearly, merchandise sales are just as important as ticket sales, which is why the final promotion is a merchandise tie-in. Those in the cycling community are notoriously fans of beer and breweries. Even beyond cyclists, the Excelsior Brewing Company is an extremely popular local franchise among Minnesotans. A collaboration between the Tour de Tonka and Excelsior Brewing Co. will yield fantastic results. On the day of the event only, collaborative merchandise will be sold: shirts, hats, water bottles, and more, with both companies' logos worked into them. Now, I am by no means a graphic designer, but these are just some possibilities to help visualize what this merchandise could look like. In reality, it will look much nicer than this. Now, any rider who purchases this sponsored merchandise and wears or uses it throughout the duration of the ride will receive a coupon for a free drink at the Excelsior Brewery. The best aspect of this promotion is that a merchandise market for Tour de Tonka already exists. Production and costs are already formatted to generate revenue, and a high amount of sales are made each year. What will be done is that 20% of projected inventory will be replaced with this collaborative merchandise, meaning that 20% of solely Tour de Tonka merchandise that was planned on being produced will not be produced, and the equivalent amount of collaborative merchandise will be produced instead, resulting in no change in final inventory and therefore cost. As for the brewery, in exchange for giving out a few hundred free beers, they will receive free advertising and a significant increase in customers. While some of these new customers may only be temporary, this will still significantly increase sales for the brewery. The result of this merchandise collaboration will be an increase in revenue for both parties, as well as added support for a beloved local business. This tie-in is a win-win on all fronts. Now, all of the parts of this campaign are moderately condensed chronologically. While registration opens on April 1st, campaign activities began roughly a month before the event on August 7th, with many being implemented periodically in the weeks prior to the ride. As you can see, the campaign is relatively simple, and nearly all promotions and media are ceased shortly before the event. Now, this is a complete budget of the campaign as a whole. As you can see, compared to the roughly $300,000 in annual expenses typically associated with the event, this $10,000 cost is next to negligible. With such a localized and volunteer-based campaign such as this one, return on investment is difficult to calculate, as many aspects of the marketing are simply not possible to reliably predict. However, the most stable potential numbers are those of the 2 Instagram ads. If we combine the ad's median estimated registration rate, which is a product of the estimated reach and average click-through rate, we get a figure of 2,977. Now, applying the average registration cost of roughly $60 nets an estimated return of $178,620. This is a 1,689% return on investment ratio. And again, this is only factoring in the first 2 online media ads. In reality, this figure will be much higher due to various other forms of marketing involved. With a proven positive return of rider registration, it can also be estimated that the value of donations to the ICA will proportionally increase, completing the goal of this campaign. In the end, the success of the campaign will need to be objectively assessed, and this can be done through the relative measure of 3 values. The primary goal of this campaign is to increase money and donations raised for the ICA. All other objectives fuel this one. The success of the campaign can be easily measured by how much more is raised for the ICA compared to previous years. Tim Litfin claims the yearly average raise is around $5,000 to $6,000, so comparing the amount raised to that figure will provide an accurate picture of the campaign's general success. The second most important goal of the campaign is to increase the amount of registered riders. Gauging how much of an increase in ridership there is compared to the typical 3,500 will give a very accurate representation of how successful the campaign was. The campaign strive to increase ridership by 50%, so a rider count of 5,250 is the benchmark to consider the campaign's success. Along with everything else, the campaign aimed to increase exposure and knowledge of the Tour de Tonka. A great way to gauge the campaign's success in informing people of the event is Google search data. Last time there was a normal Tour de Tonka was in August of 2019. Google Trends data shows the search term was at 59% of its all-time peak during this time. The increase in Google searches relative to that figure can be used to accurately determine how successful the campaign was in advertising the Tour de Tonka. If any or all of these values see a significant improvement, the campaign can and will be deemed a success. But that wraps it up for my campaign overview. I thank you for your time, and if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Otherwise, don't hesitate to contact me in the future. Thank you.